What luck.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Roberts, Executive Director of the PEN American Center. And I want to welcome you to the second biennial presentation of PEN's Beyond Margins Awards. We are extremely grateful today to Harper's Magazine and United Parcel Service, UPS, whose generous support made this year's awards possible. Thanks, too, to the splendidly renovated Brooklyn Museum for again offering us this beautiful auditorium and the space out in the court for our reception afterwards. PEN is really delighted to be working again with Harper's Magazine, with whom we've done programming in the past, and for introducing us to UPS. We'd like to thank our friends from Harper's, Rick MacArthur, who's the president and publisher, Peter Kendall, who's with us tonight, the vice president and associate publisher, Jennifer Hoadley, New York manager, and Julia Malucci, who's the vice president for public relations. I think I'll introduce Peter Kendall first to say a few words about our sponsorship tonight. Welcome, please, Peter Kendall.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for being here this afternoon. Somebody sell this one. We're delighted to recognize, along with the United Parcel Service, PEN's Beyond Margins award winners for 2004. For more than 150 years, Harper's Magazine has been a literary beacon and a major source of ideas and opinions. One of the prominent writers whose work has appeared in the publication include Mark Twain, Herman Melville, Henry James, Philip Roth, Tom Wolfe, and many, many others. Equally significant to the magazine's literary platform is its ability to attract promising new voices and encourage these young writers to be their best. We are pleased to welcome UPS as a corporate sponsor of this event for the first time. They represent an ideal partner for a program of this kind because of their long-standing commitment to promoting diversity issues in the workplace and within the communities in which they serve. I cannot think of a better time or a cause more appropriate for UPS and Harper's Magazine to lend a helping hand to our friends at PEN. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We look forward to the afternoon's event.
Thank you, Peter. I also want to acknowledge, before we go on, our two wonderful organizers of this event from the PEN office, Natasha Gordon and Stacy Lee, without whose very hard work over many months, this event would not have been possible. I think most of you know that Beyond Margins is only one initiative of PEN's Open Book Committee. The committee was established in 1991 by Walter Mosley to encourage racial and ethnic diversity in the literary and publishing communities and to increase the literature by, for, and about African, Asian, Caribbean, Latin, and Native Americans, and to establish access for these groups to the publishing industry. 13 years later, PEN continues to work through Open Book and other PEN programs like Readers and Writers, Prison Writing, and Freedom to Write to create a more inclusive literary culture that's truly representative of the extraordinary diversity that we believe to be this city's and this country's greatest strength. I'm happy now to introduce our wonderful chair of the Open Book Committee and PEN trustee, Elizabeth Nunez. Elizabeth immigrated from Trinidad after secondary school, and she's now a CUNY Distinguished Professor of English at Medgar Evers College of the University of New York, where she's created and implemented many of the college's first major academic programs. In 1986, she co-founded with John Oliver Killens the National Black Writers Conference, which she directed from its inception until 2000, building it into the premier event of its kind in the United States. She's the author of 5 novels, the most recent of which Grace was published by Ballantine in 2003. And I'd just like to remind you all that copies of books, not only Elizabeth's books, but our prize winners and many other interesting books that Open Book has helped promote are for sale outside, and we hope that you'll buy books as you leave. Edwidge Danticat called Grace a gorgeous book, extremely deserving of its title, A Moving Love Story. Elizabeth also co-edited a collection of essays defining ourselves, Black writers in the 90s. She's the recipient of many awards and honors, including the Vera Rubin Residency Fellowship at Yaddo, the YWCA Woman of Distinction Award, the Sojourner Truth Award of the National Association of Black Business and Professional Women's Clubs, and the Carter G. Woodson Outstanding Teacher of the Year Award. She also received an honorary doctorate from her alma mater, Marian College in Wisconsin. Welcome, please, Dr. Elizabeth Nunez.
Thank you, Mike Roberts, and thank you all of you for being here on this wonderful day for this program. As Mike Roberts told you, the Open Book Committee is very much concerned in supporting and promoting and advancing as we can works by writers of color. And this year we focused on immigrant writers of color, not absolutely exclusively, but pretty much focused there. For example, in the fall, we had a program at the Small Press Center with Manchia Diawara's, his book, We Won't Budge, An African in Exile. It was a superbly successful program. And we followed that up with another panel that we did with immigrant writers of color. We had Moody Trong, who wrote the Book of Salt. We had Natalie Handel, who did an anthology of Arab women poets. We had Jaime Manrique, who's from Colombia and has written several novels, and I was also a panelist. And this is our third program for the year. It wouldn't be fair of me not to mention that just a crackerjack coordinator of Penn Open Book Committee is Natasha Gordon, who really puts together these programs. And Natasha, where are you? I think you need to let us see you. Where are you, Natasha? Programs on WBAI. So from time to time on Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock in the morning, you may hear I host a couple of programs. I did one last week with Suki Kim and Howard French and it was Colin Chan. You would forgive me for not saying that. So again, thank you very much for being here. Without further ado, with congratulations to our awardees, we want to start with Laila Halaby. Laila Halaby was born in Lebanon to a Jordanian father and American mother. In addition to publishing her novel, West of the Jordan, she has published poems, short stories, and children's fiction in anthologies and literary journals. Her education includes a BA in Italian and Arabic at Washington University, a Fulbright scholarship to Jordan, a master's degree in Near Eastern Languages and Cultures at UCLA, and an MA in School Counseling at Loyola Marymount University. She lives with her family in Tucson, Arizona, and I want you to welcome Laila Halaby.
I'm going to introduce you today to I have So I think I'm going to introduce you to 3 of the 4 cousins. And the first one is Mawal, who lives in Nawara, which is this fictional village in Palestine. And she's the only child of her mother. And her mother is the person in the village who people come to with their stories, their problems, their secrets. And so many of her stories are actually other people's stories, as is the case in this. This is a woman who her daughter married in Jordan, and she went to visit her to stay with her while she had her baby, and the daughter had a stillbirth. This is the mother going home. Spring is the beginning of life. Spring is the end of life. Go back, the daughter told her mother's stone face. Your other children are waiting for you, and I will come visit you soon, God willing. Mother and daughter said goodbye before they reached the bridge that crossed the River Jordan. The mother's heart broke, but her face stayed smooth, her sadness showing only in the darkness of her blood. In the eggplant color her face became, as she folded the sadness into herself, ate it like an almond, nowhere near ripe. It used to be that those were the joys, almonds in spring, figs in summer, olives in fall, memories in winter, mulberries in spring. But now everything's bleak winter memories, even the fruits hanging heavy on the trees, all bursting with what was and what will never be again. We are from God, and to him we return. Born crying, screaming, dying, crying, whispering. A baby with no words to express his pain, only shrieks. An old woman with all the words in the world clattering inside her, and she keeps her mouth clamped shut for fear the loudness will escape. But I am not an old woman, said Farah to herself. I am barely 40. I could live to be twice this age. The thought made her heavy as she waited with all the other women who were crossing the bridge, going home, envying the foreigners who could cross from another spot with nothing more than a stamped paper for their passports. Farah said nothing, did not try to make conversation with anyone, and resented those women who did. This was not the time for chatting, she thought to herself. For the sake of her dignity, please stop. She tried to make her thoughts envelop the 3 women in front of her, talking as though they were at a wedding. She tucked her pain deep inside so that no strip search, no matter how thorough, would ever find it. As the long bundle of women moved, the body smells got heavier, and though Farah felt her head swoon with nausea, she did not flinch, showed no sign of her thoughts as she waited, watching. Old women and young girls with babies and slap. It came back to her where she had just been and the awfulness of it, and how there was no way to change it. Just accept God's will and teach yourself rigidity. Teach yourself to keep all the pain in one small corner inside. Baby, they say at my high school as I pass by them. In her country, they don't have furniture or dishwashers, only oil. I tell them what they want to hear, which is nasty stories about young men sticking their things into goats and some 12-year-old girl being carried off on a camel to be third wife to old Sheikh so-and-so, and the 5 oil wells my father owns. My mother exploded the first time she heard about a story I told. You have to show the best of us, My cousin Hannah, who didn't grow up here and lives in Arizona now, is my mother's favorite because she's so good and good. But I say she is born with a capital B, and even my mother agreed that she should get her nose out of books more often, to wake up in my own language. But all those faces I've carried with me for so long wear suspicion in their eyes as they greet me. I have walked so far away from them. I wake up less groggy at the beginning of my second week home, until 7 whiskey bottles filled with water. Are you hungry? She asks me. And I'm starving, but the house is beginning to close in on me, so I say no. We'll have coffee on the porch, she says, as I watch her pull the pot from the heat 1, 2, and 3 times before it boils over. I always know just when to pull it away, she says, and sets the pot into yummy glasses on the tray. The sun is bounding in the living room, and even though the doors and windows are open, the house smells have been closed up for a long time. We go to the front porch, which has no furniture except for 2 chairs and a small table. Everything is white.
Thank you so much. Before Elizabeth introduces our next reader, I would just like to acknowledge and thank our good friends from UPS who joined us. Bruce Trotter, who's Senior Vice President of the Long Island District of UPS, and Danny Torian, Human Resources Manager. Thank you so much again for your support.
That was wonderful, Diana. Congratulations. Because this is a national competition. It's just wonderful to have been selected. Our next awardee is April Reynolds. April Reynolds teaches literature and creative writing at Sarah Lawrence College and lives in New York. Her short stories have appeared in numerous anthologies, among them Mending the World and The Heretic's Bible. Knee Deep in Wonder, which is the novel that won the award. Her first novel received the Zora Neale Hurston Richard Wright Foundation Award for unpublished work. Welcome, April Reynolds.
I'm going to read today one of the sort of journey chapters. Each of my 4 major characters come to Lafayette County, which is where my story takes place, in a very particular way. And so today I will be choosing to read about Chester Hubbard. This story is actually partly true. It's odd, I always read the section that's fiction and read the nonfiction for the rest of the book. In brief, in 1927 there was a flood. This was ravaged most of America. And the Mississippi overflooded. And basically what happens is that this group of black people get to a government levy and are asked, in order to board, to sing a Negro spiritual. They decide not to. And I sort of fictionalized that version and gave it to one of my characters. And so the part I'm reading now is just before they get to the levy. In 1927, Chester Hubbard believed he was knee-deep in a life being lived by every Negro in the state of Mississippi. Steeped in rising debt and back-crushing work. Even in the late 20s, cotton plantations still dotted the Delta, mixed with sawmills. Land once covered with willow oaks and cottonwood trees was now laced crisscross fashion with acres of land worked over by black hands. For the most part, Chester was right. His father sharecropped for the Sellers plantation, kissing death so tenderly that for 7 straight seasons he'd been clutching at the hope that he could crawl out from under. Yes. Louder? Sorry, guys. Sure. father sharecropped for the Sillers plantation, kissing debt so tenderly that for 7 straight seasons, he'd been clutching at the hope he could crawl out from under the money he owed Mr. Sillers. But in other ways, Chester was wrong. His mother sang, traveling in an art that took her to places like Ida Bena in Cleveland, Mississippi, where she sat on high stools, her legs open, while she bellowed melancholy songs about string beans and the devil. White men wearing lucid plaid bow ties stared at the ever-darkening gap between her thighs. And on the days when she struggled home, smelling of male sweat and whiskey, Mrs. Hubbard would stay up all night with her son Chess, whispering stories about gleaming black men who fought in barns with knives, and women who could save whole cities with their bare hands. For 14 years, Chess lived almost like every other Negro in Mississippi, quietly, with despair within arm's reach. But then, in late April 1927, with spring struggling to arrive, it began to rain. When it came, without a rumble, sharecroppers and owners alike were thankful. With cotton cultivating only weeks away, they had been worried because what was generally a rainy winter had turned stingy in the early November, cracking low-tide creeks and withering gardens. At her knee with familiar pain, it started to rain in the early morning. When one day turned into 2, which flashed into 3, something not too far from pride swelled inside the tenants of the Silver's plantation. Hadn't they prayed and he delivered? Even when the rain stretched to days 4 and 5, they refused to be troubled. Did we ask for rain? Came with God in the mouth now. They all murmured. But by the end of the week, the rueful comments stuttered to absorb that show was close. The rain began again, drenching marigolds and daylilies, and if anything, it rained harder. 2 more weeks went by and Mrs. Hubbard didn't leave her house at all. Since Cairo, Illinois was on the verge of being swept away, the Ohio River had turned contrary to its nature and begun flowing upstream. Now, instead of planning visits to faraway family had left from New York weeks ago. So they gathered. Dread licked at their feet, and no one wanted to say aloud what passed in front of their minds, that this was the one, the culmination of God's wrath that was 6. Now others weren't so sure, but Mrs. Hubbard held fast to her godless knowledge. 5 hours, no more, no less. Her certainty filled the cylinder.
I was right there with you, April. Our next awardee is Suki Kim. And Suki Kim was born and raised in South Korea and came to New York at the age of 13. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Review of Books, the New York Times, the Boston Globe, and Newsweek. She is a graduate of Barnard College and lives in Manhattan. The Interpreter, which won this award, is a debut novel. She is the winner of the 2004 Gustav Meyer Award and was a runner-up for the 2004 Penn Hemingway Award. Hi, Suki. You can come up and read.
Thank you for that introduction. Thank you so much, and also giving me this chance to read in this room. It's I think this actually might be the most impressive room I have ever read in. So thank you. And I'm gonna just quickly describe the novel, The Interpreter, which just got released in paperback this year. And The Interpreter is about a 29-year-old Korean-American interpreter for the New York City court system. And her name is Susie Park, and her parents, 5 years before the novel starts, her parents had been murdered. And they are green workers in the South Bronx. And it's sort of been passed off as this random death and robbery death. And it's only really through interpreting at courts that she begins to, she stumbles upon this unravel this murder. And also while she's doing that, she gets to the truth behind her family's secret and also her position in America, New York City. So I'm going to read just a paragraph which I think describes the book pretty well and also takes this theme of interpreting. And this happens, this happens when she's interpreting for the Bronx DA's office. An interpreter is like a mathematician. She approaches language as if it were an equation. Each word is instantly matched with its equivalent. To arrive at a correct answer, she must be exact. Susie, unbeknownst to herself, has always been skilled at this. It cannot be due to her bilingual upbringing, since not all immigrant kids make excellent interpreters. What she possesses is an ability to be at two places at once. She can hear a word and separate its literal meaning from its connotation. This is necessary since the verbatim translation often leads to confusion. Languages are not logical. Thus, an interpreter must translate word for word, and yet somehow manipulate the breadth of language to bridge the gap. While one part of her brain does automatic conversion, the other part examines the linguistic void that results from such transference. It is an art that requires a precise and yet creative mind. Only the true solver knows that 2 plus 2 can suggest a lot of things before ending up at 4. So that was a very short paragraph on the theme of interpreting. And now I read a first chapter. Annie Hollywood Starlet. Across her shoulder is a navy tote bag that matches the steel shine of her leather boots. Her face bears no trace of makeup. She's morose in black and blue. These are power colors. November, and she stands facing the entrance of McDonald's on Burnside Avenue. In her left hand is a black vinyl umbrella, and in her right, a half-smoked cigarette she barely sucks on.
Just want to remind you that these books are all for sale outside. And our final awardee is Willie Perdomo. Willie Perdomo is the author of Smoking Lovely, Where a Nickel Costs a Dime, and Postcards of El Barrio, and Visiting Langston, a Coretta Scott Honor Book for Children. His work has been included in anthologies Metropolis Found, The Harlem Reader, Poems of New York, and Bum Rush the Page, a Deaf Poetry Jam. His work has appeared in the New York Times Magazine, Bomb Magazine, Russell Simmons' One World Magazine, and PEN America, a journal for writers and readers. He has been featured on several PBS documentaries, including Words in Your Face and the United States of Poetry, as well as on HBO's Deaf Poetry Jam and BET's Hugh's Dream Column. Willie Perdomo.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. And I just want to thank PEN America and Rap Palace, the publisher of the book. When I wrote Smoking Lovely, I knew that I wanted it to be about drugs and what it affects: family, politics, love. So here's just the book comes with a CD, so I'm going to read a few tracks, as it were. All right. When people ask me about my influences, I'm starting to see that I've come up with more singers than I do writers. And One of them was a famous salsero, a salsa singer named Hector Lavoe, who sang during the 70s. He was a star that, quick story, but he epitomized the whole movement. The day Hector Lavoe died, the baritone Univision broadcast came from the living room TV. En las noticias hoy, el cantante de los cantantes, Hector Lavoe, murió en Mami Cuca yells from her den in the sofa, where the world is a telenovela, where she can book flights to Miami and Mexico and get lost in other people's drama. Papo, mira, Hector Lavoe. She knows that I will stop to see the voice that helped me sing my own song about mi gente en el barrio y la vida de las putas, los tecatos y las brujas, los dichosos, los tiburones, los cantantes y los soneros, los bodegueros, las gatas, los perros y las matas en las ventanas de los proyectos in English. I rub the funk out of my eyes. I walk into the living room and Mami Cuca points to the TV. Míralo, mijo, se murió. He died. Look at him. He was the best of the best, and look how he wasted away. She starts telling that story about the morning Hector Lavoe came to pick up my Uncle Lole, who could rip the skins off a bongo. She had to throw them out for trying to start a mainline bang bang in the bathroom. I sink into the love seat near the sofa and join the coro during Technicolor footage of a young Fania All-Star. He is smiling at us through hazel-tinted eyeglasses. He is dressed in a pearl white three-piece suit, silk shirt, and a giant red bow tie. We stand in the stadium, singing and clapping along to his Comedia Tragic. The broadcast cuts to a hospitalized salsero, lying twisted under sterile white bed sheets, sunglasses too big for his face, waving to us with the strength he had to spare. Coño, que flaco, I say. Como tú, mantecoso, Mami Cuca says. Just like you know why he's like that, right? You know, right? She gives me the answer by miming an injection into the crook of her elbow. After the retrospective, I go back to my room and sniff my breakfast bag, the bag that gets my tank off E. I turn off the lights, sit on my fold-up chair, and Hector sings to me in the closing tribute. ¿Qué problema, caballero? ¿En qué me encuentro yo? Mami Cuca continues her commentary on the breaking news. Just like you, he didn't have a monkey on his back. He had King Kong, baby. My nod comes and takes me to a parade. I hear a blast of trumpets, a wave of trombones, and I change my direction. I follow the sun as it funnels its way through a cool black sky. Viejos stop slapping their dominos. Radios are turned off. Bochinche vines stop flowing. Bodega gates come slamming down, and I finally get to see my uncle play. He is sitting on a park bench with a conga between his legs. A woman next to me does not realize her hips are moving until she lets out a loud moan, asking for more. My uncle tells me that this is where he's been spending the rest of his life. I ask him if we can collaborate as I do backstrokes in the drip coming down my throat. I hear long cigarette ash fall and tap the linoleum. Mami Cuca is talking to herself about salsa and love. Her slippers drag to the bathroom. The water pills are working extra hard today. She hums a bolero riff and bangs on my door without calling for me, making sure I'm not drowning in my vomit. I clear my throat and sigh, cause she messed up my high with that same story about all that could have been in the world, where the only thing left to sing about is a woman putting on her nightgown, talking about that Mother's Day, when Hector Lavoe sang El Todopoderoso at the annual St. Paul's dance. She said that even the saints came down from their stained glass windows and started dancing. Alright, so this is for my Brooklyn in the house, because I lived on Lincoln Place for like 2 years. This is what, Brooklyn inspires me. This is called Franklin Avenue Snack Box. London fog covers Eastern Parkway. Benches are drenched with colonial dew. I stop at the 99-cent store for some mistolin and soca. Get something and wave, everybody. And everything costs more than $1. Get something and wave. I buy a ganja sack before beat cops turn the corner. West Indian biggies, oxtails keep mommy's pork chops on the back burner. Bob Marley is a must at the the stolen CD sale. Big Black talking in penal jazz took a flat 5 last time he was in jail. The only Puerto Rican flag on the block looks like it's crying. British Empire boots stomp on number 2 train shoulders. Angry nurses curse sick passenger delays and whoever gave birth to Bomba Clock Boy. Hasidim stride by, African butter soap. Crusty crackheads get chased by pit bulls for one more hit. Hairdressers take tonic juice breaks. I cradle my single man dinner, a thigh, a leg, and a bun. Waiting for the green light, a schoolgirl reads a gangster who calls her his son. All right, this piece is called 10-Pound Draw. On my first trip to London, I learned that the best way to see the city is from the top of a red double-decker bus. If you want to be loved on the first night in more than one position, you have to help with the cooking. On my second trip to London, I learned that the best way to get your smoke on was to first find out where the dog faces lived. I rode the tube to Brixton Station and found them all over the world living at the end of the line. At the top of the escalator, a brother selling oils and incense sends orders into his cell phone. You think righteousness must be a booming market. The black girls on the block smile and insist that I am Pakistani when I told them that I am New Yorkistani. So I talk como like this, y como like that, y como like kikiri buta linda. No doubt, it's all good. I am all of that if you want me to be. But do you know where I can find a 10-pound drawer? No luck finding the Parliament font, and Roger in Reading said I can't ask for a dime bag, so I buy 10 bottles of Egyptian musk and show Brother Man the thirst in my eyes. He leads me to the smoke for a small finder's fee. I'm willing to take these chances, in spite of the suspicious glances, but just in case, I buy a Big Ben postcard, address it to the Crazy Bunch, care of Ed Barrio, and write, yo, if I don't make it back home, I was thinking about y'all when I went to this place called Brixton, looking for a 10-pound drawer. Write about this, you should write about that. So I wrote a piece called Shit to Write About. The last time Kryptonite stopped me on Lexington Avenue was the night he had a bottle fight with his girlfriend. He asked me to write something sweet for her. He said it should be something like the poem I wrote for Spies Girl on Valentine's Day. He asked me to recite the poem. The poem went like this. The longer I look for something to say, the harder I search for another way to show you my love. I don't have a rose or a box of chocolates to send in place of my heart, but I can start with the bouquet of I love you and I miss you. Close your eyes and feel me kiss you. If I could, I would turn into a greeting card and send myself express. But all I have is this poem to show that I love you more than I love you less. Crip yelled, yeah, that's the shit I'm talking about. But I want mine to be better than that, you know what I'm saying? Tell me what you miss about your girl, Grip, I said. You know how she puts me to sleep? She sings me lullabies while she writes her name in cursive on my bare back with the tips of her fingernails. She loves it when I tell her to sit in front of me so I can run a comb real soft through her hair. I miss my girl, yo, he said like he was lost for the first time. It reminded me of the night we were standing in front of 1990, and Crip pointed to a cardboard shrine on the corner, and then he pointed to a row of Air Jordans hanging off the neck of a light post. a glow-in-the-dark rosary hanging off a red candle with eternal flame, untapped 40s and unwrapped cigars, hood libations for our mans in them, who may they rest in peace as we leave R.I.P. burning on the wall and visit their tombstones daily. And Crip said, now if you're going to write about something, that's some shit to write about. Today, he stopped me because his subject was life stories, unauthorized biographies about players who are reaching the end of their game. Yo, I've been looking all over Lexington for you, man. I heard you was living in Brooklyn now. Coño, you getting fat, kid. Que Dios te bendiga, mano, word up. Last time I saw you, you looked like you was smoking lovely. Not for nothing, but everybody thought you was down with the Dead Poets Society. Kenny Mack told me that you was getting ancient hood years, where one night can equal the rest of your life, and surviving the trade-off was worth writing on the wall and telling the world that we were here forever. The barbecue started with a snap session. Jerry had the best snap of the day when he said that my family was so poor, and the fella said how poor, and he said so poor that on Thanksgiving they had to buy turkey-flavored now and later. The laughter needed no help when we exposed the stretch marks of our growing pains. Phil had barbecue on the grill. He slapped my hand when I tried to brush extra sauce on a chicken leg. Yo, go find something to do. Write a poem, write something, do something. I got this. I'm the chef. You the poet. Talk about how you glad to be here. Look at the little boy on the baseball diamond. Look at him run circles around second base. Today is his birthday. Write about how the wind is trying to take his red balloon. Then you should take a few shots of something strong before we could cry and say, I love you. We have always known how to curse and bless the dead. Now we let the silence say it, and like the little boy's sneakers disappearing in a cloud of dirt, we walk home in the sun, grown up and full. This is definitely for the brothers who ain't here, who would have said, I had to write a poem about this get-together, like a list of names on a memorial that celebrated our own Old Timers Day, for those of us who age in hood years, where one night can equal the rest of your life, and surviving the trade-off was worth writing on the wall and telling the world that we were here forever. Thank you.